are not the father. Miss Miller.
Irrespectful.
I'm sorry.
Miss Miller.
I'm sorry.
That's a lot of nerve, considering the alternative is somebody that don't want nothing to do with you or your child.
I'm sorry.
That's a lot of nerve. You just showed me where your priorities were right there.
I'm sorry.
Because I held out hope that you weren't just acting a fool because you so mad at him because he cheated on you that you would cheat your child out of a father. But that cheering you did, what you cheering? I'm a single mother with nobody that loves me or my child. What you cheering for?
I'm not.
No, you were. He is over here breaking down because he loves this child so much. I sit here day after day after day with women hoping a man would drive 16 miles to see their baby, much less 160 miles each way, and abide by a court order and sign a birth certificate and come day after day and week after week so they can grow visitation to have a relationship with the child. And you have no compassion for not just him, but for Zaylee. She's 3 years old.
Paternity fraud is built upon anxiety surrounding the high rates of female infidelity and promiscuity and the general uncertainty men have as it pertains to paternity accuracy, as it is purely dependent on their partner's fidelity.
Can we talk about the DNA testing center? I had two guys call in. They work at DNA testing centers. One guy had to quit. One guy still works there. He told me 40% of the children are not the man's child. 40%. He said 40%.
Somebody call Maury.
It's usually
make DNA testing
it's
mandatory.
It's two scenarios. It's where the woman, the person's getting a DNA test because the woman claims that is their child. Turns out it's not. The other one is where the parent is on the deathbed and makes a confession, or they need a liver transplant, blood transfusion, and the blood type. There's no way that can actually be the father. So then they find out that because of medical reasons. You mean that's not my father? Then the father finds out from that way. He said it took such a toll on him that he could no longer do it because he would be sitting on the phone counseling the men and the grown children who these women falsely accused.
Paternity fraud builds on the cultural notions of the predatory or greedy female willing to do anything for a quick way to get money or avoid full-time employment.
Getting to the bottom of a burning question one Memphis man has been trying to answer for years. Why is Shelby County Juvenile Court forcing him to pay for a child that is not biologically his? What's even more unusual, he says the judges at Juvenile Court have an idea who the real father is.
Yet they're still demanding he pay up.
Talk show TV makes millions off the catchphrase, "You are not the father."
You are not the father. In the case of 4-year-old Brandon, Gary, you are not. When it comes to 2-year-old Serenity, Alfonso, you are not. When it comes to 1-year-old Jordan, John, you are not the In the case of 4-month-old Royal, Harold, you are not. So far, he wants the money, so he goes crying and looks at baby daddy. Here, take
That's what you get! But the reality in Memphis is just because you're not the daddy doesn't mean Shelby County Juvenile Court won't make you pay.
I was down there in handcuffs and chains.
Over the years, Edward Bowdery had his driver's license stripped and once even found himself in handcuffs over child support payments for a child that's not his.
You spent 5 years in prison for failing to pay child support for the defendant, Ms. Sears' son, Dylan.
That's right.
Mr. Manser, you are not
Oh, God.
his father.
5 years in prison.
You know who his father is.
Yes, I talk to him still.
She should be convicted of some crime.
No, I should not. I did
That
not.
is fraud.
I would hate to see somebody else go through the same thing. I've been going through this. I mean, headaches.
This mound of paperwork shows a juvenile court judge ordered him to pay child support even before the birth.
I didn't do a voluntary acknowledgement. I didn't sign the birth certificate. All I know is we legitimated the child in your name.
Bowdery asked several judges during several hearings for a DNA test, but no judge ordered one.
I said, how did I even get put on child support? And I never said this was my child. And they said, again, this is not what we're here for.
In 2009, he took the child himself to get a DNA test and found the son he'd supported for years was not biologically his. He took the documentation to court. The judge wouldn't accept it, but ordered a new DNA test done that showed the same results. Probability of paternity, 0%.
They never did do what they were originally supposed to do, which was give me the opportunity to take a DNA test. I was just a voice not being heard, so I guess I needed a choir.
Juvenile court magistrate Nancy Kessler agreed in October to allow Bowdery to disestablish paternity, but only after, he says, she admonished him for taking it this far.
The judge stated that, well, I find it very distasteful that you're bastardizing a child.
The judge stopped the child support going forward, but Bowdery still has to pay $460 a month to the mother in back pay. He doesn't believe he should have to pay anything. In fact, he believes someone owes him money, the $30,000 he's already paid.
Paternity testing offers men an opportunity to separate anger from the powerlessness of being duped and conned by their ex-lovers who are seeking to make a quick buck out of their past interactions. Even if men are not tested, in a world where the woman doesn't believe in purity anymore following the abandonment of her quality for the man's quantity-based mating strategy, paternity tests help control female greed even by a small margin. The burden or fear for men is the fact that if paternity fraud is discovered, then visitation and access could be denied, while payments are still enforced through the marital or social presumption of paternity if parentage was accepted at birth. The
County man claims a major triumph in his 3-year quest to protect men from paying child support for children they didn't father. Last year, he helped change Georgia law, and today his work was put to the test with his own future on the line. Fox 5's Lisa Crane has the story.
Okay, the first case is Tony Odom versus Carnell Smith.
But it was a case that didn't make it into open court. After years of fighting, a judge today ruled Carnell Smith was not responsible to pay child support to a child he did not father. Almost 3 years ago, a DNA test proved that the then 11-year-old girl he had thought was his own was not his child. But in Georgia, that didn't mean the end of his own obligation to financially support that child. Smith turned his case into a crusade and helped shape paternity fraud legislation that passed last year. Today, his case was the first to test the new law, and in chambers, the judge terminated his parental rights and obligations.
I feel this is a major victory for defrauded victims everywhere.
There were a lot of people watching this case, like Reverend Randall Robinson. Through DNA testing, he discovered that some of the children he had always thought were his own weren't.
In a previous marriage, and 2 out of the 3 children are not mine. At that time, I still was ordered by the court to pay child support.
And this is the first real test of this new legislation, but it appears right now that even after a man proves he is not the biological father, he must still come to court to end his child support obligation. Smith says there's still work to be done in Georgia.
We're going to ask that there be a truth in pregnancy disclosure, that we believe that mothers who know there's more than one person that could be the child's father should be required to make that declaration before the court in the very first hearing.
State Representative G.A. Hardaway says he's heard from a number of fathers in his district who were like Bowdery. He introduced a bill letting them file civil lawsuits against the biological fathers, but it never made it out of committee.
To a degree, justice needs to be served. I think it needs to be a totally different, a new law or something.
The question many people might ask, why is Bowdery still paying back pay to the child's mother? Well, we're told by law, the new judge he's dealing with can't undo another judge's ruling. What are the chances of him getting his money back?
It is very unusual. and very infrequent.
Family lawyer Miles Mason says in a similar case, the Tennessee Supreme Court ruled a man in Middle Tennessee could sue his ex-wife for fraud. He got a $100,000 judgment.
There was a very large judgment awarded against the mother, but I doubt it would be likely that they would be able to collect in most cases.
Problem with paternity fraud, and something which the perpetrators heavily bank on, is the fact that in instances where paternity transition beyond financial provision into actual relationships with the children, the discovery of paternity doesn't automatically translate into severing relationships. Besides, nothing happens to the perpetrators of paternity fraud.
A man doesn't want to raise a kid that he thought was his and finds out that kid isn't his. That's our biggest fear.
That's just a dumb fear, honestly, because there's like bigger things in the world, like
me?
dying. He could raise her son to be such a noble man that regardless if his wife or whatever did cheat and he wanted to take the responsibility of raising that kid, that is a high value man to me.
He had no choice. Remember? No.
You always have a choice.
Noble, right?
Yeah.
Do you have high standards in men?
Yeah.
You want a man that makes more money than you? Yep.
It doesn't matter. I would hope so.
Stronger than you?
Yeah.
You said teach you things, so more competent than you?
Yeah.
Okay. More status than you?
That doesn't matter.
You want a guy that's better than you in most metrics, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How about you be noble and go date the homeless guy downstairs?
I could. That's not a problem. I could build him up.
Hold on. But why don't you do it, though?
What you want?
I don't have the time right now to do that.
Cool, and I don't have time to raise kids that aren't mine.
Hey.
That's a choice, exactly.
Come on, man.
Choice. So